Alright, guys. Welcome back, all of us. And thanks for listening to the recent episodes if you have. Alright, let's see. Okay, so now this is actually fluctuating more. So I hope we'll see what happens with the very beginning to see if it recorded or not. But I wasn't really saying anything of too much significance. I just kind of want to talk about what it is that like questions that have kind of come up lately, and I don't know if it's because of Pride Month or because just those topics have been coming up when I've been speaking to people, or because I've been a little more social this month than I was during the month of May. So I don't know, but I don't know if any of them are problematic. I guess we'll see, because I'm reflecting back on stuff. So okay, I would say one recent question somebody asked me, this is like people in my life, somebody kind of asked me, how I first knew that I liked women. And I guess, because the person is a guy who likes women, I was kind of like, I don't know, it's probably the same way that you first knew that you liked women. Like, I don't really know how I knew. I don't know that I interpreted what I was experiencing as liking women. I don't know if I interpreted it as that. I just think because I was raised around, adults who were telling me that I wouldn't like women, that I do like men, and that, I'll eventually, they've kind of, I don't know if you guys grew up around, adults in your life that kind of told you what you were going to be doing. Like, sometimes, there are adults that, there are some adults that do say bad things, and they're like, oh, like, you're going to amount to nothing, and, like, you're nobody, and that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't have that necessarily, thankfully, because I don't know, like, that would be so hard to deal with. But I had people like, oh, you're gonna be a doctor, and you're gonna have grandkids, you're gonna like, my parents would say things like, oh, like, you're gonna have us some grandkids, and just the type of stuff that they say that you're gonna do. Like, they're like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. And I was kind of like, no, I'm not, like, I'm not gonna do all that kind of stuff. Like, academically, I tried to kind of follow the goals that were set in line, and just tried to do what I was told to do. Like, I never thought that there was anything outside of, like, getting an MD or a doctorate. Like, in my head, like, there was no reason not to go for it. Like, it wasn't even a matter of, do you like it? Do you want to do this? It was just like, it was drilled into my head since I was a kid, that I was going to be a doctor of some kind. Like, so I never really thought too much about, like, oh, go to grad school or this or that. Like, I never thought that I wouldn't take that route. I kind of considered doing other things. I remember when I got really into, like, anthropology, and wanted to kind of go into, like, archaeology. And I remember when I, like, not in an academic way, like in a field work kind of way, and I kind of wanted to go into audiology at one point too. And I have some form of background in, like, like, ancient history stuff, and then some form of background in, like, language, music, just auditory perception in general. And so I had these I kind of had that as a kind of as a framework. And so I know with school I definitely thought about things like that. And with dating, relationships, marriage, like nobody really was telling me like you're not gay. Nobody was really saying that. But I mean, I heard those messages around me though, with people saying like about like friends of mine who were out or something. They would say like, "Oh, they're too young to know. Like, how do they know?" And it's like, this is an age like when I was like a little younger than I am now, but like old enough that it's like I think at like 16 or people in their 20s kind of know what they're experiencing. Like, yeah, maybe they might. It's possible for a woman to like for a 16-year-old or 21-year-old or whatever age, to be a woman and dating somebody and that person's another woman, and then it's like, maybe like I'd rather marry a man, or maybe I'd rather be with a man, or they just kind of like leave that part of their lives behind them and just go straight with men, and that's kind of all they really experience. And people kind of do that, sometimes. And so it's not like out of the norm for people to kind of like know what they're into or be questioning what they're into. It's not out of the norm to not know that. I mean, it's valid. If people are questioning, that's valid. But just because someone is gay doesn't, or whatever, bi, pan, queer, whatever, just because somebody is something that's not straight or not cis doesn't mean that they're questioning. It doesn't mean that they're confused. I think a lot of times other people might be confused or not want a person to go down that route of a life, living in the culture like that, and so they might say things like, "Oh, you don't know what you feel, like you're too young," and it's kind of like, I don't know. But I heard that message a lot. Like, I kind of learned when I was young that, like, my parents were not the people to talk to about relationships and stuff like that. Like, I never was really too comfortable talking to them about crushes. Like, I don't remember who I was with. I was with somebody from maybe, like, church who, there were a couple guys I used to hang out with. And there was a dude I was dating, and one of my friends was like, I think my mom was there, and I don't know why, but like, I think my mom was there, and this friend of mine was like, "Oh, well, this guy at church likes you, and this guy at church likes you, and you're kind of like, aren't you like dating that other guy?" And like, this was stuff I'd like never talked to my parents about, and like they didn't have like any clue what was going on. And so they, from that point, were kind of able to identify, oh, there are certain people that are guys that are like in my life. They're not people that are dating, like I don't know, they kind of assumed that I was dating them. And not that long ago, my mom kind of asked me about one of the guys that I was dating. She kind of asked me about that guy, and I was kind of like, I don't know, like, he's around, like, I'm like, I'm not gonna talk about this. But she kind of brought him up, and I was just like, that's weird. Like, that was weird. Like, I don't know why she's like asking me, but it's like, yeah, there was like the one guy that they kind of knew about, and kind of deducted that like me and this guy kind of had a thing for a while, and they had met him, but it was like before they kind of knew that information. And so like, yeah, it was kind of weird. But yeah, I've always known that, like, I'm not too open talking to my parents about anything, especially like love interests and whatnot. And but just because I don't talk to them doesn't mean that I'm confused about it. And I just don't feel like it's necessarily the safest. Like I don't know. Like I know that they care, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I don't want their opinions about. And if I don't want their opinions, I don't even bring it up because I'm like, I don't want to hear what you have to say about this. Even if it's good, I don't want to hear it. It's like I just don't want to hear it because I don't want to risk. I don't want to risk that it could be maybe something bad that they have to say, something negative. So I will just avoid talking about it at all. There are a few topics like that where I'm just like, that's just how this is. That I don't really trust, talking about that kind of stuff. And especially when it comes to like queer stuff, we just don't talk about it. Like I think the first show I started watching, I think my mom is the one who told me about the Queer Eye show when it was still on Bravo, like way back when I used to like watch TV with my family and stuff. And I remember we used to watch that show, and my dad liked it too. And I remember my brother making a comment like, I don't know why any guy would watch the show if he's not gay. And then my dad was kind of like, well, I like the show, and like my dad's like into fashion and stuff, like, and I don't know, like I really don't know how to explain, like he's got some like crazy suits and like some crazy looking outfits that are just like, I don't know if you guys have ever followed this financial guy named Lesko on YouTube. Like I'd say minus like the neon colors, but maybe like the patterns of like the different styles. Like my dad's kind of like, he'll wear like a checkered jacket with this interesting print, kind of like silk shirt and striped pants, it's like, and it's nice attire, but it's like, it's loud, even if it's black and white or something, or like beige or whatever, but it's like, oh my gosh. But he's got his own fashion thing going on. When he dresses up, he's got his own thing going on, and good for him. But yeah, I don't know, like when somebody asks me something like, okay, how do you know, or how did you know, it's like, it's just kind of hard to answer, like, because how does anybody really know, it's like, because things can change, like, maybe, I mean, people, I do think, might explore certain things, might get a little bit more, clarity on certain stuff. Like I feel like for me, the easiest time to figure things out were when I was not living with my family, because I was definitely able to make my own decisions and kind of like think a lot for myself. I wasn't around this like church environment of influence, of like repression, of like you can't do anything, like I wouldn't have been smoking weed. I probably wouldn't have ever been dating, women or anything ever, just because I would have never explored it much. It's not that I didn't know that it was an interest, but I never really went out of my way to kind of like practice or act on anything, just because I was like, my house where I live is the space of like security in a lot of ways. Like I can't risk getting kicked out or living in a house with people who were, not mentally stable at certain times, when they're kind of just like challenged on their religious stuff. It's kind of like they just have a whole different way of interacting with people. They get their feelings easily hurt by their children not abiding by their religious beliefs. But it's like, there's nothing I can do about that, like they have to, decide that that's something they want to kind of adjust, or be open-minded towards. Like there's nothing I can do that would change that. But I know what they think about a lot of things. Like they're pretty judgmental about like a lot of different types of stuff, just because I overhear them talking about a lot of things, and it's like, I don't think they really know what they're saying. I don't think they really want to know too much information. Like they kind of tread lightly, but they're also um like they're just not that open-minded. Like they're not, it's hard to explain because it's like they're not like the kind of closed-minded that you would maybe think of, like someone who like goes out of their way to like harass people and stuff. Like they're not like that. They're fairly calm and like passive with stuff. Like they don't like keep on like harping on certain topics. It's kind of like, you know, like if they don't agree with something like Halloween or whatever, they're not going to keep on like every week, you know, just keep bringing it up or whatever. Like there might be one disagreement about it, and then like that's kind of where that ends. Like it doesn't like keep going on and on. But it's like I'd say that the discomfort of the experience of the disagreement kind of goes on and on. It's kind of more so that it's not so much like, oh, I don't really know where I stand with how I feel about women or whatever. But yeah, like I don't really remember like I do remember the first crush I had on somebody that I didn't really know, which was that Peter Pan girl when I was in 3rd grade, and it was like a play where it was like kids theater or something, and I was into her. But as far as people I actually knew, I'd say there were some people I was into, but I think that I didn't really identify it as that. Like I didn't really think that it was a crush. I just thought I really like these certain ladies and I really want to impress them, and you know, I liked being around them and liked getting attention from them, and I liked how they treated me, and they were always nice to me. And you know, I was probably older. I want to say like 6th grade, 7th grade, like around that age range. And so maybe I was in 5th grade, somewhere between 5th and 7th grade. I kind of was like, yeah, but I don't think there were any girls in my school. These ladies went to my church. They were a few years older than me, and I kind of like really liked them, but I kind of just liked how they were. Like they were like into sports, and they were kind of cool, and they were nice, and liked good music, and you know, like there was a lot about them that I really liked. They were a little bit older than me. I kind of liked that. I didn't really know a lot of like females that were like older than me, that I kind of like actually hung out with, and they were cool because they played sports and stuff. But we didn't live like near each other necessarily, but our parents were in contact enough that we could kind of hang out, but it wasn't really like something that I was pursuing. And one of them actually thought that my brother had a crush on them, and I don't know if he did. I don't think he did. And yeah, like I was really like I don't know how to describe it. Just really kind of like I was kind of repressed with my emotions in general when I was growing up. Like I didn't feel like I could be very vulnerable because of the people I was around with this religion and stuff. And I kind of saw what happened to people who were, that I was like, wow, you just opened up a whole door for everybody to just kind of walk all up in here and, you know, start trashing things. And so I kind of learned, like, through other people's experiences, like, these people maybe aren't the best people to be too open with. And I did know people outside of church, but it was like most of the people I knew were in church. And so it was kind of easier for me to kind of develop relationships with people who weren't like so involved. Like I had a couple friends who were aware of the church, went to the school, but weren't like their parents weren't like regularly attending church. They weren't like too involved in the church like that. And so because they weren't so involved, it was kind of a little bit easier for me to kind of trust them. But I still didn't really tell them about like any, like I don't think I ever told any of my friends about any crushes that I ever had all the way through maybe high school. I remember there was this one guy in my junior year that I thought he was just like a beautiful man, and it was only that year of school because he was a senior, um, and so I remember liking him, um, but I don't know, like I really don't remember anybody else that was a student that I was actually into, like that I actually went to school with. Like I feel like I met some people along the way, like after high school. There were a couple female friends I had that I was kind of vibing with, but it wasn't anything like romantic necessarily. But now looking back, I'm like, it totally could have been. But it ended up not being. And yeah, I was always good at like forming really deep friendships and relationships with certain people, but it didn't always go anywhere. Like I was never really like too openly having crushes on people, and I think it's just because of the household I lived in. Like I already knew, I was like, this is just not gonna be a safe space for me to like date and stuff like that. And so I mostly just studied. I mean, I hung out a lot and had a lot of friends, but it was like, you know, because a lot of the people I hung out with, there was some overlap with hanging out with the church people too. I kind of didn't really like to hang out with the church people with other people, because then word could always get back to my parents about like who I was with or what I was doing. So I know a lot of my friends were straight and, church going people, and like I'd say in our teens and in our 20s, people were kind of like experimenting with different things like sexually, and there was a lot of pressure for people to be like losing their virginity, kind of, but it was also kind of looked down upon. So people kind of didn't really know how to like address virginity and stuff like that. Like they kind of were very like, oh, like it was still kind of like it is in like mainstream society, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of not considered cool or whatever. Like if you don't maybe lose your virginity before you're done with high school or whatever. I wouldn't say that I agree with that. I'm just saying, like, in general, like if you're like 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, people start like assuming things, or like it's kind of like people might have a weird reputation of you. Like you might have like a weird reputation or something. Like I don't know, like I think, like, what was that movie with Steve Carell, 40-Year-Old Virgin or whatever? And it's like, I mean, I know people that are virgins when they're in their 40s. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But in society, it's a little rare. Like, I remember being at a work, it wasn't a work party, but my boss had a party. My boss had a birthday or something. But it was like, this was someone who I was kind of friends with before they became a boss. So I think at this time they weren't my boss. I think at this time they were a lead for a different team that I wasn't a part of. And so, they had a birthday party at their place, and I came over, and, I kind of was partying with them. And, there were people there that I didn't know, obviously. Like, there were a lot of people there I did know from work, and then there were people there that I didn't know. And then a lot of us stayed really late. And I remember jumping in the pool, and it was late at night. And we were kind of like, having a good time in the pool at night, relaxing, and just playing a game. Like, we weren't really swimming around, but I think we were playing it wasn't Truth or Dare. It wasn't 20 questions. It was like one of those games where they ask you personal questions and you have to answer. But I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was Truth. I think it was Truth. Maybe it was Truth or Dare. I don't know. Because I feel like one person was dared to take off their swim trunks. So I feel like we were playing Truth or Dare. And the question came for this boss person to ask me a question. And, I think the question was like, when was the last time you had sex or something? And I was just kind of like, what? Like, because I wasn't dating anybody at this time. And, I'm just going to say, like, there was definitely, like, pressure to say something, like, nearby. Like, I didn't want to be, like, today or yesterday or whatever. But then, like, it was, like, I just mentioned something that was, like, maybe, like, a couple months before or something. And, like, one of the guys was like, wow, it's like a really long time kind of thing. And I'm just thinking, like, is it? Like, is that a long time to, like, for a single person to not have sex for a couple months or whatever? Like, I made it up. I don't even know what the number really was. Like, I don't even know. Like, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and, like, calculate. But, like, it was probably definitely longer than whatever I said. But I remember there was pressure to choose, like, do I choose something sooner, like, recent? Or do I choose something a while back, because it's like, I don't want to say like 5 years ago, like that would feel like weird, but then I don't want to say like, because this question had come up at another party before that, and I don't know these I don't know. I have so many weird memories, guys. But, like, yeah, I remember this party. It was a work party, I think. I think it was our work Christmas party. Something like that. I don't really know, honestly. But I think it was our work Christmas party. And I wanted to... Yeah, we were all just, like, talking and stuff. And, like, that came up. I think we were probably playing the same stupid game, and like this was like before the pool night party. This was like maybe a couple months before, because I feel like this person's party was, now I know, it was another party. It was because I have a friend who has a birthday on like April Fool's, and then this party was in like July, because I remember I went to one of my friend's birthday parties before this in Orange County, who has a birthday in July, and then right after that, the same day, I went to this work party thing, this coworker's birthday party in San Diego. So I went from Orange County to San Diego that same day, and and so I think I ended up Ubering home. I had to like come back and get my car the next day or something. I don't really remember, but I remember Ubering home for sure. And yeah, I remember eating an edible. I remember a lot actually. But yeah, I remember the first party we the first staff member's birthday party at their house. It was like a keg party, and it was like a costume party at the same time. So I was wearing this kind of like velvet looking royal blue kind of cowboy hat, like from like Party City or something. And I also had this bow tie that was like a rainbow bow tie. And so when I had like a light costume, that's what I used to wear for my costumes, was a bow tie and a hat. And like I liked it because like people could just be like, oh, like gay, you know, like with all the rainbows and stuff. And you know, that's kind of what I wore to the costume party. It wasn't like an elaborate costume, but it wasn't nothing. Um, and so that's what I wore. And um, we kind of like, um, yeah, like that came up again. That came up, the truth or dare. And I always chose truth. I was never going to choose dare. Like, I always chose truth. And so you're basically supposed to tell the truth about whatever question. And usually somebody tries to ask you something like embarrassing or something that you don't really want to answer. And so, yeah, sorry guys, like I said, I get interrupted all the damn time. Um, so yeah, this work friend or work colleague was asking me, um, you know, who I'm like if I last like yeah, when did you last have sex or something? And so I kind of don't remember what I said, honestly, but like I don't know, I said a number. And like I remember one of the coworkers being like, oh, like that's not too bad because you're um like that's not too bad, you know. um uh they kind of said it like that, kind of like that's not too bad because you're um not dating anybody or whatever. Like I can't remember what they said. And then like the other person was like, oh, like that's better than me or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, this isn't like a competition. But like it was just so weird. Like it's kind of like people do kind of treat it like that. Like, are you doing these things, you know, on a regular basis? And yeah, there can definitely be pressure to like lie about it or like say one thing or say another thing. um and it, you know, people do kind of expect, you know, that people should be having sex. And if you're not, if you're celibate, that you're, you know, doing some kind of like a cleanse or some kind of spiritual kind of option, and not so much that you're doing it because of how, you know, just a lifestyle or something. Like a lot of times people don't want you, I don't know, they just don't think that you should be that way or something. Like like I don't know, like it's just, I don't know, like I don't think there's anything wrong with people not having sex or like whatever. Like whatever, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Like I don't think people should have to do it. But it is seen as maybe like a little strange when a person doesn't do it. Like it is kind of like a little rare. And kind of the same with dating. Like I've definitely noticed that there's a pressure to kind of be like, oh, like I'm interested in someone or I'm dating someone. um Even when it's like I'm totally not even like focused on anybody sometimes, but it's like there can definitely be the pressure to be like um dating at least in my social circles. Like I don't know, like it's just one of those things. Like people kind of expect you to be like developing relationships and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't know why um why somebody needs to kind of be doing that. But I've definitely noticed that that is something that people will say. People will definitely say that. Um, and yeah, like I don't really know when the like mm, I guess like when I first started dating people, yeah, it was guys. Like I wasn't dating women like early or anything. Um and I don't think I even thought to do it. Like but I think I knew I liked women, but I don't think I knew in a sexual way. But I kind of don't know if I really like guys in a sexual way either. Like when I think about it, like if I think like fantasy wise, like I was never thinking of like specific people or like specific gender or anything. Like it was never like that. Like it's really hard to explain. Like it's kind of like yeah, like I don't really fantasize much about gender related things like too much. Like a little bit maybe, but it's not like it's like little specifics. It's not necessarily like man, woman, you know? Like it's just like I don't know, like there's a lot of variables to consider sometimes. So, um usually it kind of depends on the variables I'm interested in. It's not really so much like a gender thing. Um but yeah, I do kind of notice that sometimes people ask about that and it's kind of like I don't mind talking about it, but it's kind of like I don't know what they expect you to say, It's like what do people expect me to say? Like how did I know? Like, oh yeah, I just woke up one morning, I was like, oh shit, I'm gay. Like that, like I don't think cuz I wasn't even like claiming to be gay of any kind for a while. So I don't know, but um yeah, I'm out here and I'm getting distracted yet again. Give me a minute. And I don't know. But yeah, I live in a household of like really nosy ass people. So, yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me for always being distracted. I can't even come outside and not be distracted. It's like Jesus, like literally, unless I leave and go to the beach, like that's the only place, like. Or if I'm like up at the crack of dawn, then that helps too. But yeah, guys, like I'm just like, what on earth, but yeah, I definitely noticed that like yeah, I wasn't really thinking too much about people. Like I remember when biblically people used to talk about lust and things like that, and it's like yeah, like they would say things like, don't look at pornography because of the concept of lust, because when you're looking at someone and kind of like fantasizing about like a real person or whatever, then that is what lust is. And I was kind of just thinking like, well, I don't really think about anybody specific, and so I kind of just make it up in my head. So it's kind of like it was never really anybody that I specifically knew, but maybe it's because I didn't really know anybody with those qualities or variables that I was like looking for. And I don't think I was usually seeking to date people. Like usually when it was with guys, I was usually just hanging out with them. And sometimes there might be like an interest, or like my female friends would be like, oh, do you like any of these guys or whatever? And I would usually pick the one that I was like, yeah, I like this guy. I'll like a lot about him. Like there's a lot that I like about certain male friends of mine, and I would just say, yeah, I have a crush on this guy. And it's like I didn't, like, not really in a romantic way like that, but it was like, like I like hanging out with him all the time, and going places and doing stuff, even if it's just me and him. And like I was comfortable with it because I didn't have any like romantic attachment. It was just friendships. And so I was kind of just like, I would usually just pick somebody, but I wasn't usually like fully interested in them. When I think of it, I was just like saying stuff, like just because like it seems maybe a little like maybe I felt like pressured to say something, and maybe I think I thought I had crushes on them, but I didn't really know why it wasn't that strong. I was just kind of like, but it was just like I really like my friends, and that's all it was. It wasn't really like I really was like into this person, wanting to date them. But if they mentioned wanting to date or wanting to be together, I probably would have said yes, like because I would have thought that that's what I need to do. But I don't know. Like, I think that's more so what was confusing. It wasn't so much like, oh, I didn't know, or I was like questioning, or I was like curious about like, and it's okay if people are questioning things or don't really know. That's completely fine. That's completely okay to not know. But I would say to some extent I didn't know because I didn't really understand that like this wasn't like a full like crush on these people. Like these guy friends of mine that we were just playing sports or watching anime or playing video games or going to movies and like whatever. Like we were just homies. Like we were just hanging out and we had a deep connection because like I'm a female and I was making deep connections with people. And so that's kind of how it was. So I would make deeper connections with people, and I would be like, I know when I look back at like some past journals that I have, like there was one where I was kind of like reading, I was kind of thinking about one of my friends who I was like, yeah, I think he's cute, and like of all my guy friends I like him the most. And like I don't know, I should reread that tonight because that was just, oh man. Like high school was rough, guys. I don't know, I was probably like 20 or something. Like it's hard for me to tell how long a periods of times were because I've lived in the same house for so long, and I've had a lot of the same friends for so long. And so it's like, some people my oldest friends I've met in kindergarten and still have some of them still to this day. Like some of my second oldest friends I met in like second grade, third grade, and still have them till this day. I have some friends that I met in like 7th grade, or 8th grade, but they were in 7th grade or lower, and still have them to this day. I have a bunch of friends that I made just after high school, even though like we were like acquaintances, like we knew each other because we went to school together, but maybe we didn't hang out much. And then like we started hanging out more when we all were going to the same community college and church and stuff, so we all kind of went to the same groups socially and stuff. And like, so in my first years of college I had a social crew, a few of them maybe, and then once I went to grad school I got some more friends out there, and then in San Diego got some more friends out there. So it's like I've been living in the same house for most of the time, with the exception of when I lived in San Diego about 9 years or so, the exception of this last year when I've been living here in LA again, and the exception of, well, I guess that would count as me living at this house. And then there was the exception one year where I lived up near downtown LA, like El Sereno area. I don't know if it's East LA or what, like, but it's near Cal State LA. It wasn't far from Cal State LA. So yeah, I lived up there, and yeah, like, yeah, I do remember though, like almost all the time when I was living out of the house, I've definitely felt more like definitely a higher libido, that's for sure. Like all of the time pretty much. I would say whenever I've been living at this house, like other than maybe when I was like in my teens or 20s or whatever, like I would say like anytime after that, I definitely notice a shift. Like when I'm out of town, it's like, my levels of attraction for people are definitely, they change when I'm not like stuck at the house, because it's like, I don't know, all the stuff with the family and the religion and stuff, it's just like my head just doesn't, it just doesn't, it's just like, I just don't, like, my head just isn't like free to think, like I'm always like, somebody can overhear me, like it's always kind of like that. Like I can't record podcast episodes easily because I'm like, who's gonna walk outside and start gardening when I'm like sitting in the car trying to record? Who's gonna come knock on my door when I'm in the house? Who's gonna decide that they want to do some arts and crafts at a table that's like a few feet from my bedroom door and with earshot of inside my bedroom? And like, it's kind of hard to, like have a lot of space. Like the house is a decent size, but it's like still like it's not that loud of a house. So it's like whenever there's someone talking on the phone or doing anything, you can kind of hear it. If you're like out in like a common area. And I don't really want people overhearing my conversations. And so I try not to, be too open with that kind of stuff in the house. But then it's like, and even stuff with like what I watch. Like I was watching, if you guys know the content creator model Alyssa Butt, I first heard of her through Ashley Gavin's podcast, and I was like, she's kind of, I guess they're kind of cute, so I was like, okay, like I was enjoying catching up with some content and just looking, and yeah, I kind of noticed that they were looking, and I was looking, and I was like interested, but then I was like, is this too loud? Like, because somebody's sitting like right in the other room, it's like an open, I don't know how to explain. We have like a pretty open floor plan when you first walk into the house. There's like a family room, a dining room, a living room, all like right next to each other. And so if somebody's sitting in the family room, or if somebody's sitting in the dining room, they can probably hear my room. Like if you're on the other side, because there's another room, a bedroom between, so like if someone's in the living room, like where the TV is, and usually they're watching TV, or past that where there's like a desktop computer at this little like study area in the living room, it's like, okay, if you're in the living room and you're all the way over here, then yeah, we're not gonna hear, then you might not hear, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're in the, yeah, they might not hear me, but it's like, yeah, if you're sitting like right near a room that's like open next to my room, it's like, yeah, you're gonna hear me in my room. And so, yeah, just even something as simple as like watching YouTube of something that I would have watched anyways, it's like, do I need to put on headphones or like turn it all the way down? And it's like, because I listen to a lot, a lot of queer content does have like a sexual nature to it. Not all of it, but some of it does, and I don't avoid watching that kind of stuff. But it's like man, like, so it's like I'm pretty motivated to get up out of here. I'm like, okay, I've had my break, it's time for me to leave. Like I'm definitely missing my friends, I'm missing the queer culture and the people and just living my life. I'm missing all of that. Like, I am missing all of it. Like, this for me is not ideal. It's not a bad setup for what I'm trying to do for like plans and next steps and stuff, but for future planning and everything, but it is not what I'm preferring. It is not like a preference, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of just like, okay, this is how it is, but I'm making the best of it. But I'm like, dude, like, it definitely affects me. I just don't feel like free, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't feel like put down or like anything like that, but I do feel like, like parents are a certain way, like, they can't help themselves sometimes, and it's like, it's hard, like, even today I was, like, talking to my friends on the phone, and I walked in because I was outside, and, like, I walked into the house to grab, like, a couple water bottles, and then somebody starts talking to me about, like, what they're gonna make for dinner, and I'm just, like, I'm on the phone, like, oh my goodness, like, I'm not trying to, like, talk to you, like, but it's like, don't talk to me, like, goodness, like, I don't want to talk, so it's kind of hard. I mean, of course, it could be a worse situation. The place I was living before this was far worse, which is why I moved. But, yeah, I mean, like, at least I get peace and quiet. But it is hard having, like, a schedule where, like, somebody has a schedule where they're up past, like, 1:30 in the morning and I'm trying to sleep. And so it's like, I don't really like that. I don't really like, I don't know. Like, I just like my own space. It's like, I have a friend that I talk to about pretty deep stuff, and it's like, I don't even feel like I can really talk on the phone, because it's like, so we kind of resort to texting, and it's kind of annoying, because I'm just like, sometimes it's just easier to talk on the phone. Like, I don't even feel like I can have a conversation on the phone, and it's like, especially because, like, no one ever leaves the house. Like, unless I leave the house, like, I can leave the house. That's the only thing I really have on my side, is like, just leave the house and go somewhere else. So yeah, that helps, but I don't know, guys, it's not that easy. But I do notice, I feel more, like, sexually repressed when I'm, like, living at this place. Like, I don't even think, like, it's hard to even think about dating or meeting people, or if I have a crush on somebody or anything along those lines. It's hard for me to even really think about it too much. It's kind of just like, okay, like, whatever. And last weekend when I went to the drag show, I didn't even say anything. I just, like, left the house and went, because I was like, I don't want to have to explain this. And I don't feel like I should have to explain myself. Like, I don't feel at all like I should have to tell anybody where I'm going. It's like I'm an adult, I'm using my own money. Like, I don't see any reason why. Like, I think with my parents, I did used to have this, like, this kind of, like, okay, like, out of, like, respect, I would, or, to try to involve them a little bit, I would involve them. I would be like, okay, I'm gonna go do this now, okay, I'm gonna go do that now. And yeah, but it's like, I kind of don't really want to tell them what I'm doing. It's like, I'm not gonna tell them that I'm going to Pride events and stuff. Like, that's what I do this time of year every year anyways, and they know that I go to them. I've told them about them before, so it's just kind of different right now, because I'm not really, like, living, because I am living with them, and so I do feel like I need more distance, if that makes sense, because I'm just like, we see each other all the time. Like, I'd rather just not share my life with you. Like, that's totally how I am with stuff. I'm like, I just don't want to share, like, and I think I have every right not to. Like, it's, to me, it's, I don't know, I can't say fully personal, because if I'm posting it on the internet, but I mean, like, there are certain people that I want involved, and then there are people that I don't want involved in certain parts of my life. And, I feel like everyone has that right, and I hope that people respect it. Like, I don't feel like people are disrespecting it. I don't feel like, I think, okay, I'll put it this way. I get annoyed with people in my family, but I don't think that they're purposely going out of their way to do the things that are annoying me. That's why it's like, I know it's not a big deal, just because I'm like, it's just like, okay, it's hard for me to, like, have conversations. I can't have people over. I can't have company. So it's just stuff like that, where it's just like, I've got friends in the area that I'd love to see and have over. Maybe just, like, bonfire in the back and just, like, chat. But it's like, it's kind of hard to do that when your parents are home and you can't really just talk openly about anything. So it would just be easier to meet, like, at a gay bar, because it's like, at least we can talk. Like, I can't talk, at that place, and, like, there's a lot of stuff that's just like, oh my goodness. but yeah, like it's not like easy to explain. I know I complain about it a lot, but it's like just because, I'm not really living where I want to live. I haven't lived where I want to live for a very long time. I've just been kind of making do with what is working out at the time. But all I got to do is find a job that pays well enough for me to move. That's the step I'm on now, and I'm applying. So I can get to where I'm trying to be, but it's like, now it's like we got to deal with these interviews and the onboarding process and all this other stuff. So it's like, meanwhile, I'm still like kind of part-time working like a little bit, trying to get something more solid. But it's like the more time I work, the more energy I use, and the more time that takes away from actually doing other job applications. And so it's like, it's really not that easy, honestly. But I yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's kind of all I can really say about like what I feel or how I knew about my queerness. Like, that's how I knew. Like, I kind of knew over time, just and through reflecting, but I don't know if I knew like every step of the way like what was going on. I think the most obvious to me now looking back is kind of how I was explaining that like I would have crushes on guys, or say I would have crushes on guys that I wasn't really into them, but like I was into them in a way. Like, not a romantic way, not like I was like, yeah, this friend of mine is cute. Like, he's a good-looking dude. He's got muscles, and the way he looks is kind of like a way that I find appealing and attractive. But I mean, do I want to sleep with him? No. But it's like, I don't know. Like, it's not like a hard no. Like, it's like, maybe. Like, I'm not like completely opposed. Like, if somebody was like, if I was like at gunpoint or something, I wouldn't be like devastated necessarily if it had to happen. But it's like, that's a little grim. But I mean, let's not say gunpoint. But like, yeah, if it was like a matter of, if somebody was like, would you rather owe $1 million or sleep with this person? It's like, I'd rather sleep with this person. Like, I'm not like that opposed. Like, it's not like one of those things like that I'm like grossed out by. I don't want to do it, and I think it's a bad idea, but it's like, in theory, I probably wouldn't mind. But it's like, I also would just be like, I'm not really wanting to be with them like that. Like, I'm not trying to like start a relationship. If it was just like a one time, let's just see how this is kind of thing, that's pretty much about as far as it would go. Like, I wouldn't want more than that, I don't think. But I don't know, it's crossed my mind, but I'm not like really into the idea of it. But I'm not repulsed. I'll put it that way. I'm not repulsed. Like I do have a lot of guy friends that I do find attractive. I'm not like attracted enough. Like, I don't know. They don't make me. Their attraction doesn't make me nervous. Like, I don't feel like anything about it. It's just kind of like, if I had a female friend or a friend who was into cis men and was like, do you have hot male friends that you would introduce me to, or guys who are attractive? I'd be like, yes, here they are. Like, I know them. Like, yes, I could point out which ones they are. But I don't think I would really say for myself that that's what I want. It's just more like, I'm not disgusted by them. Like, there's some of my guy friends that I'm definitely kind of disgusted by, but there's a select few that I would be like, alright, maybe, but not really. Not really. Like, it's just not like such a hard no that like it would be like I don't know. I wouldn't kick myself over it, but it's kind of like, it doesn't seem like something I really want to try. Like, not on my own. There's no way I would like reach out to like try to make it happen or anything. Like, it's that would be going too far. I wouldn't even open the conversation. Like, I'm just like, I don't think we need to talk about this. Like, it's not it's not, I think it's kind of maybe normal for people to kind of think that about some people in their lives, some friends that they have. I don't know if it is, but I think it's normal for people to kind of want to see what it would be like with a certain friend or something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're like into them. I don't think. I mean, that's just how I see it. I don't know. I think maybe some people with maybe like their sexual interests, are kind of like hard yes, hard no. Like, I do like this, I don't like that. I don't want this, I don't want that. I do only want this. Like, I think some people are like that. I'm not. I've got a lot of flexibility to me, but I definitely have preferences, and I don't think I have any cis straight male friends that I have preferences toward where I would like make effort. Because I feel like it would only be like, it's more like I could be convinced to do it, but it's like I don't inherently want to, if that makes sense. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's not something I'm like seeking or that I desire. It doesn't disgust me. That's the easiest I can explain it. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna like seek them out or anything, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of just an idea I'm playing with. I'm like, I don't really know, but like, yeah, usually when I would have like some kind of scenario that might be like that, that's what I would used to say. That I was like, oh yeah, I have a crush on this guy. Because I'm like, I don't really think that's a crush. Like, not, it's just like, I'm not disgusted and like I have some kind of liking toward this person, but it wasn't even like fully like I want to be with them. It was just like, if something happened over like a weekend or something and we were just having fun, then so be it. But I don't think it would be something I'd want more than that. There'd probably have to be a lot of alcohol involved. But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to really think about it. But yeah, like I don't know. Like, it's hard to really say like when I knew. Like, I think when you're not given like a script to follow, you do kind of stumble into things sometimes, versus like when you're straight, there's like definitely a script all the time, and then you kind of get given that default script. Most of us do. Like, I don't know that many people who were raised to think highly about having crushes, like same-sex crushes. Like, I don't know. Like, I knew some kids that had like same-sex parents in the household, and like a lesbian couple, and like I knew some gay people here and there. Like, they weren't like never around, but I didn't really know. Like, there was no conversation about it, like, where people were like, oh, like, it's possible that, these two people of the same gender might get married, or these two people, might get married, and, that aren't like a cis hetero couple. Like, usually I didn't hear anything about like how that life would look. It was more like, just don't do it. Like, that's more what I heard, is like, don't do it. Don't try to get like a life set up with somebody and all that that's like the same gender and all that kind of stuff. I never really heard anything outside of that. And people kind of assumed it wasn't even gonna get to a point where people were gonna have a life together. Because when I was younger, back in my day, like, gay marriage was not legal at all. And so you couldn't really get married anywhere anyways. And so because it wasn't legal, those conversations weren't really happening too much. Like, so I don't really know. I mean, I think a lot has changed for sure, but yeah, I don't really know how anybody might react differently or like try to explain like how they knew. I think everyone's scenarios are different. But I don't really know. But yeah, I don't know. Like I was yeah, I think that's all I can kind of think about. I don't really think there's any others that I can think about that were ways that I could tell. Like how could I tell? Um like I think I could kind of tell once I experienced something different. Um cuz one of the first females that I'm really trying not to say hardly anything about cuz I don't really talk about it much, but I don't want to talk about much of it at all, but it wasn't a bad experience at all, but it was just um like the person isn't someone that on their end would be able to really acknowledge any of this. And so, like we definitely had a very close connection, and I definitely learned more about how I felt towards her, like while we were doing kind of like this song and dance kind of like unspoken thing for a while. Like we did talk about it, but like early on we didn't really talk about it. But I was just like, this is not what I say about my guy friends, how I say I have a crush on them. Like that, this is not the same thing. Like I knew that for sure. I was like, this doesn't equate to how I talk about my basketball homies. How I'm just like, yeah, I'm like into this guy and I have a crush on him. And it's like, no, this doesn't compare. Like this is far more intense and far more like, I was like, this is definitely a crush. Those things were just like, oh, he's cute or whatever. Like there were like a couple guys. I would say the guy in my junior year of high school, I think I did actually have a crush on him because I liked his personality. I liked the way he looked and everything. There was a lot about him that I really liked. He also was not interested in me at all, but he was very nice. I think I did have a crush on him. And then the guy that I dated, when I was dating him, I liked him. And there might have been another guy in there. I can't really remember, but I think there's one that I'll call it like a half crush. But I mean, when I think of, yeah, and maybe another one. So maybe there've been maybe like four guys that I've been into. And yeah, I think, yeah, one of them I dated another one like very shortly, but it was fine. Like, but a lot of it was like moving, like we moved and stuff, like not my family, but like, going to different schools or just like getting into a whole different like time period of life, or like they might move or something. And so we didn't really get to see one another. Well, we had a good run for like a while, but then usually it was like moving and like all these lifestyle changes that kind of got in the way. So I don't really know if any of those would have lasted past that, because it's like it just kind of had to end, and that's just kind of how they ended. So I've never really had like a breakup that's been like with a guy and been like we're breaking up for like a specific reason, other than like, oh look, I got accepted into this other school and now we're just not going to have time for each other. That's more so what it was. It was like, well, none of us want to do long distance, so we're just not going to do that. So that's usually what it was. Somebody moving, either me or them. But which is fine, like I'd rather not have like terrible breakups with people. But yeah, like with the women, it wasn't always that as the reason. Like for some reason it was like different stuff, but it's also because like we were actually dating. So like with the guys, I wouldn't say I wasn't dating them, it just we weren't really dating. Like we weren't really, I don't know how to explain it. Like we were dating. I wouldn't say, oh, it was fake just because they're men. Like I would not say that. Like it was definitely real, but like it was kind of different because I was like living this like religious lifestyle. So there were a lot of differences, because like there was a lot of stuff that I do now that I was not doing, in those relationships. and a lot of ways I was thinking that I feel free and open to think now that I was not thinking back then, or entertaining the idea to think about or open up my own, ability to kind of like go into my own authentic direction with things. Like I kind of was just playing these roles that I was told or felt like I needed to play, even though some of it didn't feel authentic at all. Like I could tell it didn't. But like, yeah, I can tell the difference between like the guys I've been into and then the guys that I wasn't. And most of the guys, other than like maybe 4 that I can think of, there might have been more than that, but like there's like 4 that I can think of, where it's like, yeah, like we, could have, like I could have pursued it, we could have pursued this, but yeah, like, yeah, so I don't know, like, I kind of think about, yeah, it's kind of hard to really remember because it's like I was so like repressed from a lot of my emotions. Like I wasn't really like in tune with myself too much. Like I taught myself from a pretty early age to kind of like shut down. So I do feel like a lot of the time I was pretty shut down, like in high school and most of the time when I was just involved in this church. But it's like I do remember that there were certain people that I felt like I could be a lot more open with, and I had a really deep connection with them and an open connection with them, and we could actually like share more stuff. But I don't think I really was like that I really like truly adventured into kind of being like really open with people until I moved to San Diego. Maybe a few years before that, when I was like in grad school in LA, I would say that would probably have been like the starting phases of it. But it just really took that disconnection from like, having people that just didn't have any connection to my household, to my church, to like any of that. Like I needed just people that were completely outside of that. And then that's where it was easier for me to like date and meet people and kind of figure out how I felt about people in different situations. But this female, when I first dated her, or when I first noticed that I was like into her, like the first female that I noticed I was into that we actually had like a connection together, she was it is really hard to explain. Like there were a lot of times where people around me were kind of like, what is going on? Like like people who knew me really well were kind of like, I think I appreciate that a lot of times they didn't bring it up because I know that they knew. But it was really like I don't know, like part of me was like, I don't know if I was like kidding myself or what, or trying to like fake things to people, but I would just be like avoiding it. Like people kind of knew, I remember some people flat out like asking me if I was gay, and I would just be like, no, like I'm not, I just dress like this. And like this were like gay people that were like, what is up, and I was like, no, like I'm not gay, and like, I still kind of had these side things going on with some like guys from before, and like it was legit, so it was like we weren't like not together, but it was like pretty casual too, so it was kind of like I could, if I had events that I needed to bring somebody to have like a date, or like not like using them like that, but like we actually did go on dates and stuff, and even when we weren't like together anymore, we still would kind of like do stuff together. And so it was kind of like these other connections on the side, so it's like all the gay stuff I could still do it, and still like nobody was really paying attention. I mean, I was paying attention, but like, yeah, nobody was really paying attention, and or so I thought. And then I kind of realized, like, I think people know, and I did not know what to do about that. I was just like, I was just kind of like deny it to everybody. Like, I didn't know what else to do because I was like, what am I supposed to say? Like, I'm not supposed to like admit to this. But also, it's like I was in an environment where people kind of like weren't that judgmental. So, because like I've mentioned, like I grew up, with the same major pretty much the whole time in school, and in college, and so most of the people I grew up around were studying psychology. So, um, luckily, it's like at most phases in school, like I always had these friends that were kind of like really understanding, and like I could kind of like talk with them about stuff or whatever. And so it was kind of like, even though I might not say something, it was kind of like I wasn't uncomfortable with them asking me about it, but I just didn't really truthfully answer. And I don't know if I knew to truthfully answer. Like, that's what I'm kind of like, I don't know if I knew that, you know, what I was doing was like really gay. Like, I don't think I knew. Like, I was just kind of like, this is nice, like I like this, and so yeah, I don't know if I knew. Like, I knew I liked women. I just don't know if I really put two and two together and was like, I like women, and these specific women that I like, I want to do these things with them, and might do these things with them, and might have these relationships with them, but I didn't really think of it as like, oh, it's because I'm gay. I just thought of it like, I just really like doing this. Like, I was like, wow, we really have a deep connection. It's like, well, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Like, it wasn't like, maybe it wasn't too clear to me. Like, I would say, like, I knew when I was young. Like, yeah, I definitely knew at third grade. I was like, oh shit, like, I do like girls. When I was a girl, when I was a young girl, I knew that I liked girls, but like, I also didn't hang out with them. I only hung out with guys, mostly, or other girls that hung out with guys. And so I wasn't really around anybody that I could be like crushing on necessarily, because they were all just like my homies, and I wasn't really like crushing on any of them. And so I think I did kind of avoid making friends with like certain girls that I found like attractive or whatever, but I didn't really have crushes on them or like them. Like, to me, it was always like they were too like femme and prissy kind of like. And this is like my era of youth. Like, back then, people were kind of like a little more like, into the gender roles of everything. And so, especially like church people, like a lot of times they tend to be. So it's like, yeah, there were times where girls had to wear dresses and all this kind of stuff. Like, it was just like part of the culture. And so, yeah, like I don't think it's like I understand why people might ask that question, and especially if it's like straight people um asking when would somebody know. But I think it's not that clear, because it's like, I think I had phases of knowing certain things, but it took me a while to put it all together. Because I still remember going to like this brunch, and one of my friends, who I think she was kind of newly getting to know some of us, and she was cool, and she liked to drink and stuff. Like, we just kind of wanted to party. It was like a bunch of people in college and stuff, and we would just want to party, and like, we were all at this university together and had these different like layers of things going on, and like, we eventually all started becoming friends and going out for like these brunches at these like gay bars and stuff, because like San Diego has a lot of gay bar brunches, like brunches in general, on weekends. So we would start going to those, and I started like going to the brunches, and this one particular day, I remember, I was there with a lot of gays and like queer friends, but they weren't all gay. And the girl who was friends, like, maybe she didn't really know me too well then. I think this was my first or second time ever meeting her, maybe. But she was cool. Like, she was easygoing, and when we met her, she just, like, was chill. And so, like, yeah, we went to talk to her. Like, she comes up to our table, because I think we were already seated, and she comes in and is like, oh, so, am I the only straight one here, or whatever she said. And then, like, almost everybody in the group was like, yeah, I'm straight. And then the other ones who were gay were like, I'm gay. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm straight, but I just like to do a lot of gay things with women. And, like, like, that was literally, I said something like that, and I was like, it didn't even register to my mind then. It's like, oh, maybe you're not straight. But I mean, like, I was doing some very not straight things for a very long time before I actually, like, started using any other kind of label. Like, I mean, I don't really hold to many labels, but I mean, like, if people call me bi, it's like, whatever. Queer, pan, whatever. I usually just say, that I'm not straight, and, like, but I would say that I don't know if I've dated more men or more women. That's kind of hard to say. Or had, like, interests in more, like, actual interests. I mean, I've definitely dated far more women, like, because I've had more time to have freedom to do that. Like, I haven't had a lot more time to have freedom to date guys. And when I was always busy and everything anyways, like, in college. And so it's like, I was always so busy. But, yeah, like, I definitely had some crushes, though, like, that weren't females. And, like, yeah, I've had crushes on trans people, on non-binary people. I've had crushes on all kinds of people. And yeah, but yeah, I don't know if there's more that I've kind of evolved from, I guess. Or evolved into understanding. Like, I don't really know, but yeah, it is just kind of funny, though, like, that that I don't know, like, it's kind of funny that I would, that it isn't the easiest thing. Like, I think if I were straight, I would be like, oh, like, this is just how this happened, and it would be easy. But because I think, like, a lot of times maybe straight people don't have to ask themselves anything. They just kind of like who they like and just go on about it. Like, there are a lot of people that might be questioning different things and all that too, and be straight. But it's like, yeah, like, I don't, yeah, they might be straight and questioning things, like, and that's perfectly fine too. But I just, yeah, I think that usually people kind of default towards, like, straight. Like, I know a lot of people kind of do. I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people do. And then just kind of later on, they kind of discover more. Like, I always said I was straight because other people said I was straight. So it was hard for me to be like, oh, like, I'm not straight, because, like, all these other people were saying that I was, and nobody ever said otherwise. Like, people would question a little bit, but, like, not to an extent that I actually had much to process about it. Like, it was more like people would question, people would question, I guess, um, yeah, people would basically question you. They would question for, like, just little stuff, but like for me it was more like, oh, why do you dress this way? Or like, why don't you like dresses? Why do you play sports? Like, why do you not wear makeup? Like, why don't you talk to boys all the time? Like, not really talk to boys. I actually talk to boys all the time, so nobody really is. It's just kind of weird because like when you're hanging out with guys all the time, nobody really is like, oh, like you're gay. Like it's kind of like it was just kind of like an interesting thing to have, hanging out with guys all the time. Um, and I don't know if my parents thought anything about it. Like, I don't think I had like a lot of female friends. I had like one or two, but I definitely had way more male friends. Um, and me and my brother used to hang out with the same friend groups, and so um, I've definitely stayed in touch with a lot of those people, but I don't think he has necessarily. But yeah, a lot of those friends were like both of our friends. We would all hang out, but yeah, he at a certain point just stopped really wanting to communicate with any of them, um, and started doing his own thing. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't really remember too many more experiences other than that first lady that I was kind of starting to be with and didn't really know what was going on until like a little later. It kind of was like, oh shoot, like I kind of realized what was happening. Like I was, like um kind of through talking to her mostly, like I kind of realized more, but it took time. It kind of took time for me to like actually realize. Like I was saying I was straight for like a long time while I was doing really gay things. Like, there was a point I wasn't even dating guys. I wasn't even like going out with guys or like looking to like meet guys. I was just meeting women and like doing things with them and like going out on dates and all this kind of stuff, but I wouldn't say that I was dating. I wouldn't label it as dating. Like I wasn't saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm dating a guy or like or dating a woman or whatever." Like I wouldn't say that I wouldn't like it's basically the labels. It comes down to the labels, I guess. Like I was labeling myself straight even though the activities I was doing were not at all things that straight people would be seeking to do. I'm not saying they would never do them, but I don't think they would be like routinely like doing it the way that I was and not trying to do straight things. Like like I had like no, like there was no part of me that was doing anything that was like relevant to like trying to meet guys or do anything with guys or whatever. Um or yeah, so I don't really know. And um yeah, so I wasn't really like fully aware, I guess. Um but yeah, I don't know. Like I really didn't think much of it. I really wasn't thinking much of like what I was doing, what did it mean, you know, why I was doing it. Um, I was just kind of going through the motions of doing what was what I wanted to do, but not really labeling it as in the correct category, you know. Um, so yeah, I do remember that, and I remember, yeah. So basically, the labels of if I was straight, I would say that I was straight. One thing that hasn't really changed much really is my clothing style. Like ever since I was a kid, like I've always kind of dressed kind of tomboy mask-ish. Ever since I had any control over it, that was kind of what I just chose as my preferred clothing styles. Um, and yeah, like um, Like, I was never taking a stance of like what the church said about like homosexuality and stuff. Like, I never really believed that. I was kind of like, I don't know. Um, I didn't really believe that. I was kind of like, I don't know why they care so much to talk about this all the time. In such a negative way. It was just like, we have other things to think about, don't we? Like let's feed the homeless or do something important. Like, why are we talking about gay marriage all the time and stuff? And then like, in such a negative way, I was just like, I never saw the point in having those conversations. And then I yeah, like, I basically don't think I really understood like the labels I was using, the actions weren't matching up to the labels. Like, I was definitely doing a lot of things that were not in the category of those labels. So, yeah, that's kind of when I knew. Like, it's evolved over time, but yeah, with that, thanks for listening.